Okay, so now that we have finished the Identify Risks process in the 6th edition of the PMBOK here in PM City from the crowd training, let's go through them all and review the inputs, outputs, tools, and techniques. First, starting with the inputs. Well, if we're going to identify risks, we got to look at all the plans. So again, as you always see, I draw the project management plan like a big file folder because I like to think of it as a good collection of all the different plans. Oops. So for instance, if we look at our resources, our quality, our scope, wherever in our plans, something could go right, could go wrong. There could be something in those documents, in those plans, and those materials that we're looking for any type of risks that might emerge. As I mentioned, the documents. There are lots of different project documents that we have throughout. The schedule, right? When we're looking at constraints and maybe even our assumptions log, right? We assumed that certain things would happen or not happen, and an assumption is just something we as a team, or maybe even our experts on the team, subject matter experts, have said, yeah, we assume this, but there's a level of confidence, but there is no assurance for certain that something will or will not happen. So those are all good locations to bring out some risks. Additionally, too, there are agreements. Maybe they are internal between different departments. Maybe they are between outside sources that we are, like for instance, if we have a contract with a company to build roads, maybe that's with the city government, and the government says, that, we got to meet by this date, and this, whatever, our people have agreed to, we're going to have to adhere to, and hence there could be risks inside that. There could be even documentation that goes out before this agreement, or maybe we send out to other clients and customers, like requests for quotes, requests for proposals, any of those, but altogether we just kind of refer to those as the procurement documentation. Even as we're developing that procurement documentation, we might say, this could be a risk that we didn't think about until we started working with the other vendors or suppliers or even other departments within our organization. And then we are, as I just stated there, a product of our organization or the environment we work in. So there are going to be various different environmental conditions. So our enterprise environmental factors, things like the company culture or union contracts or just different arrangements we are going to just find as ways to bring about risks and talk about the risks and share the risks and list the risks. And also, too, where do we store those risks? How do we store them? When we get to the output, we're going to have a risk register, so maybe there's templates for this that we have to follow or we should follow or whatever the case may be, depending on the organization. So those are organizational process assets. Okay, those are the inputs for identifying risks. Let's look at some of the tools and techniques. Well, we have to look at the data and the things that are going on, things that are coming in, or just how we might just arrange things, or maybe look at these agreements, look at this material, but we have to gather the data in some form or fashion. Otherwise, it's just sort of going to be laid out. We need to collect as much as we can, because the more information we have, the more that we can make good decisions. And then with that, we need to analyze it. We need to, do some charts or comparisons or different evaluations. So the data analysis is also going to be of use. Something like the SWOT, right? Strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Like what could happen? What are the threats or what are the opportunities? Because remember, risks can be both positive and they can be negative. And then maybe we have meetings to discuss these different data points and what we brought in, or maybe we're talking on the manufacturing floor for people that are explaining, what could go wrong or have seen gone wrong in their work environments, that our project is now trying to automate something. Hey, you might want to look at this or take a comparison. So with that means, having the ability to discuss things and ask questions and listen and hear active listening, all those different skills that you might or should have, whether that is your own interpersonal skills and also everyone else on the team's skills to be able to facilitate, negotiate, to talk, to investigate if necessary, kind of keep digging. Sometimes you might need to be prompted. So there are prompt lists that can help us brainstorm and dig deeper and maybe even get to root causes and ask the right questions, or surveys that we're going around to the various different places to ask different people in different locations. And last but not least, you might just have to, think about it, or you just kind of know as you've seen it before, or others, you have subject matter experts on your team, so that they do their thinking. And this is me thinking on a, scratching my chin, kind of thinking about things, and it is the various different experts that you have and their judgment. What do they know? What do they don't know? What do they think? What do they feel? Where have they seen it before? The experiences that we all have. And then those tools and techniques give us an output. The primary output is going to be our risk register, and sometimes called risk log, but this risk register is going to give us the identification of all the lists that we find, maybe even some owners, like who raised it or who is bringing it up, or where it's affecting, or maybe whatever detail you wish to put in this. Obviously that is all dependent on your risk management plan, how you guys decided to manage the risks of the project. You also have a risk report to kind of lay out overall risks and some triggers. And then you're going to take those documents that we have been using and working on, and you are going to update them accordingly. So there are project document updates, and those are the outputs. So that is the inputs, outputs, tools, and techniques of the Identify Risks from the Crowd training